Sometimes the heaviest burdens we carry are the ones we place on ourselves out of love. I want to share with you a story about choices, the kind that seems so clear when you're making them, so right when you're looking into the eyes of the people you love most. But choices have consequences, and sometimes those consequences don't reveal themselves until it's far too late to change course. This is my story about what happens when a mother's love becomes her greatest weakness. My name is Ruth Goldstein, and I'm 74 years old. I'm sitting here in a single-room apartment on the south side of town, where the radiator clanks all winter and the summer heat turns this place into an oven. The walls are thin enough that I can hear Mrs. Martinez next door arguing with her son about money, again. It's a familiar argument. I understand both sides better than either of them knows. On my wall, I have photographs. They're faded now, the colours all washed out to pale blues and yellows, but I know every detail by heart. Jacob at 12, missing his 2 front teeth, holding up a math test with a big red A. Rachel at 9, covered in finger paint, grinning at the camera. My wedding photo, David and me, so young, so full of dreams. And the bakery, Ruth's Bakery, with its blue awning and the hand-painted sign David made for our opening day. Let me take you back to 1970. David and I were young then. I was 24, he was 26. We had big dreams and $5,000 we'd borrowed from his uncle. That money, every single dollar of it, went into Ruth's Bakery. A small storefront in a working-class neighborhood, sandwiched between a hardware store and a laundromat. The space smelled like mildew and old grease when we first saw it, but David looked at me and said, "We can make this work, Ruthie." I know we can. And we did. Those first years were brutal, the kind of hard work that carves itself into your bones and stays there forever. We woke up at 3 a.m, every morning, 7 days a week. While the city slept, we'd be in that kitchen, our hands deep in flour and butter, shaping dough, mixing batters, pulling tray after tray from the ovens. By the time the sun came up, our windows would be full of fresh bread, cookies, cakes, and pastries. The smell would drift down the street, pulling people in. David handled the front of the store while I stayed in the back, baking. He had this way with customers, remembered everyone's names, their kids' birthdays, what they liked. Mrs. Chen came in every Tuesday for her almond cookies. Mr. Rodriguez bought a challah every Friday. The O'Brien family ordered birthday cakes that I'd spend hours decorating with buttercream roses and little sugar figurines. By 1975, we had 2 children. Jacob was born in January, during a snowstorm that shut down half the city. I was back in the bakery 2 weeks later, Jacob sleeping in a basket near the ovens while I worked. Rachel came 3 years later, in the summer. David joked that we'd planned it that way, winter baby, summer baby, to balance things out. Money was tight, but we were building something. Every dollar we didn't absolutely need went into savings. We had a plan. 5 years to pay back Uncle Morris, 10 years to own the building, 15 years to expand. We talked about it late at night, lying in our small apartment above the bakery, listening to the sounds of the city settling down for sleep. Then 1982 came. It was a Tuesday morning in March. David left the bakery at noon to make a delivery, Mrs. Goldfarb's anniversary cake, 3 tiers with white roses. He never came back. A drunk driver ran a red light on Madison Avenue. David died before the ambulance arrived. I was 36 years old, with a 12-year-old son and 9-year-old daughter, a bakery with morning deliveries that wouldn't wait, and a grief so crushing I could barely breathe. But grief is a luxury when you have children depending on you. So I learned to breathe through it. Those years after David died are a blur of exhaustion and determination. I'd wake up at 4 a.m, an hour later than before, because I was doing everything alone now and needed that extra hour of sleep to function. I'd work until 3 in the afternoon, then rush home to meet the kids after school. I helped with homework, made dinner, got them to bed. Then I'd stay up until midnight doing the bakery's accounting, planning the next day's production, preparing dough that needed to rise overnight. My hands were always raw and covered in small burns from the oven. My back ached constantly. I developed a persistent cough from the flour dust. But the bakery survived. More than survived, it thrived. Our neighborhood was changing, getting younger, and suddenly everyone wanted authentic baked goods. Lines formed outside on weekend mornings. We were written up in the local paper. Business was good. Jacob was smart, the kind of smart that teachers noticed immediately. He came home with straight A's, awards for math competitions, recommendations for advanced programs. In his junior year of high school, he sat me down at our kitchen table one evening. He had college brochures spread out in front of him. "Mum, I want to study business," he said. "I want to go to Boston University." I looked at the brochure he pushed toward me. The tuition numbers made my stomach drop. But I looked at my son's face, David's face, really, with those same hopeful eyes, and I heard myself say, "We'll make it work." Making it work meant selling our house. The small 2-bedroom we'd scrimped and saved to buy back in 1977. I sold it in 1990 for $60,000. We moved into the apartment above the bakery, just 2 small rooms that smelled perpetually of cinnamon and yeast. Jacob was embarrassed to have friends over. Rachel cried about leaving her bedroom, but that money paid for 4 years at Boston University, tuition, room and board, spending money, books, $80,000 total. "Mum, are you sure?" Jacob asked when I handed him the first tuition check. "Education is the most important thing I can give you," I told him. "Your father would have wanted this." 2 years later, Rachel came to me. She'd been accepted to Rhode Island School of Design, one of the best art schools in the country. The tuition was even higher than Jacob's had been. $60,000 for 4 years, she said quietly, not quite meeting my eyes. "I know it's a lot. I could go to community college instead." "No," I interrupted. "You're talented, baby. This is your dream. We'll find a way." The way I found was a business loan, using the bakery itself as collateral. $60,000 at 8% interest. I signed the papers without letting myself think too hard about what I was doing. "Mum, you're sure?" Rachel asked, the same question Jacob had asked. I gave her the same answer. "Education is the best gift I can give you." I believed it then. I really did. Jacob graduated in 1995 with honors. He got a job at an investment firm on Wall Street, the kind of job I barely understood but knew was important from the way he talked about it. Suit and tie every day. Business cards with his name in embossed letters. He moved into an apartment in Manhattan that cost more per month than I'd paid for our whole house back in 1977. Rachel graduated in 1997. She moved to Los Angeles to work as a graphic designer. She showed me pictures of her studio apartment in Venice Beach, palm trees visible through the window. Both my children, living these big city lives, doing exactly what they'd dreamed of. I was so proud I could burst, but the bakery was struggling. The neighborhood was changing again, but not in our favor this time. Big chain supermarkets moved in with their own bakery departments, factory bread at half our prices. A Starbucks opened 2 blocks away. Young professionals wanted their coffee and pastries from sleek, modern shops with Wi-Fi and laptop-friendly tables, not from a small, old-fashioned bakery run by an aging woman with flour permanently under her fingernails. Revenue dropped 20% in 1996, 30% in 1997. The loan payments stayed the same, but the money coming in kept shrinking. I was 70 years old, and getting up at 4 in the morning was getting harder. My knees hurt, my hands shook. I'd developed arthritis in my fingers from years of kneading dough. Then, in 1998, Rachel called. I could hear the excitement in her voice before she even said the words. "Mom, I met someone. His name is Derek. We're getting married." We talked for an hour, about Derek, about the proposal, about their plans. Then her voice changed slightly, got smaller. "Mom, we want to have the wedding in Los Angeles. Derek's family is here, and all our friends. But weddings here are expensive. The venue alone is $15,000, and then there's the dress, the catering, the photographer." "How much do you need?" I asked. Silence. Then, 20,000 would cover most of it. "But Mom, I know that's a lot." "I'll send you a check," I said. $20,000. It was half of what I had left in savings after years of declining business. But this was my daughter's wedding. How could I say no? 6 months later, Jacob called. "Mom, Melissa and I found a house. It's perfect. 4 bedrooms in Connecticut. Great school district for when we have kids. But we're just short on the down payment. 30,000 would get us there. $30,000. The rest of my savings, plus another loan against the bakery that was already drowning in debt." "Of course, honey," I said. "Family helps family." I attended both weddings. Rachel's was on a beach in Malibu. Beautiful, elegant, everything she'd dreamed of. Jacob's was at a country club in Greenwich, sophisticated and impressive. I wore the same dress to both, the nicest one I owned, bought on sale at a department store 10 years earlier. In the photos, I'm smiling. Inside, I was doing calculations, trying to figure out how to keep the bakery afloat 1 more year. By 2000, I was in trouble, real trouble. My knees had gotten so bad I could barely stand for the long hours the bakery required. I'd limp home each afternoon, my legs swollen and aching. I'd take aspirin, prop my feet up, and try to ignore the pain. The doctor said I needed knee replacement surgery. Both knees. The operation would cost $15,000, and I'd need 3 months to recover. "Don't you have health insurance?" he asked. I'd cancelled it 3 years earlier to save money. $400 a month had seemed impossible when the bakery was barely breaking even. I called Jacob. My hands shook as I dialed, which had nothing to do with the arthritis. "Son, I need help," I said. "I need surgery, and I don't have insurance." $15,000. There was a pause. I could hear voices in the background, Melissa, their baby, crying. "Mom, that's a lot of money," he said finally. "We just bought the house, and Melissa's pregnant with our second. Money's really tight right now." "I wouldn't ask if I wasn't desperate," I said. Another pause. "Maybe you could set up a payment plan with the hospital. Or look into Medicare. I'm sorry, Mom, but we really can't spare that kind of money right now." I called Rachel next. The conversation was almost identical. Derek had just lost his job. They were behind on rent. They were sorry, so sorry, but they just couldn't help. I didn't get the surgery. I learned to live with the pain, the constant grinding ache that turned every step into an effort. Every hour standing behind the bakery counter into an endurance test. Then, in 2002, the bank foreclosed. 32 years of work, gone. The building I'd mortgaged twice to pay for my children's education and their dreams was taken away. I received the eviction notice on a Tuesday, same day of the week David had died, though I tried not to think about the symbolism. I sold the equipment for $3,000, professional ovens that had cost 10 times that, industrial mixers, refrigerators, display cases. Everything went for pennies on the dollar. That money became the deposit on this apartment. 1 room, 400 square feet, in a building where the elevator breaks down monthly and the super never fixes anything unless you threaten to call the housing authority. I called Jacob from my new apartment, sitting on the floor because I didn't have furniture yet. I lost the bakery, I said. I lost the building. I'm in a single-room apartment now, and I don't know what I'm going to do. Mum, I'm so sorry, he said. He sounded genuinely upset. But, you can't come stay with us. Melissa's really firm about needing space for the kids. We have 3 now, and the house is full. Maybe you could apply for senior housing. I think there are programs. I'm not asking to move in, I said, though I had been thinking exactly that. I just needed you to know. Of course. Keep me updated. I have to go. Conference call in 5 minutes. I called Rachel. She cried, said she wished she could help, mentioned their own financial stress. Derek's new job paid less. They were thinking about moving to a cheaper apartment. Neither of them sent money. Neither of them offered to visit. Neither of them seemed to understand that I'd given them everything, literally everything, and now had nothing left. In 2003, I turned 74. I got a job at a fast food restaurant, cleaning tables and bathrooms for minimum wage. My knees screamed with every step, but I needed money for rent and food. The manager was kind enough to let me take frequent breaks. My co-workers were mostly teenagers who felt sorry for the old woman who had to mop floors to survive. Meanwhile, Jacob and Melissa bought a bigger house, 5 bedrooms with a pool and a 3-car garage. I saw the photos on Facebook, which Rachel had helped me set up so I could stay connected with the family. Pictures of expensive vacations, Disney World, Hawaii, a Mediterranean cruise. New cars in the driveway, designer clothes for the kids. Rachel and Derek moved to San Diego into a beachfront condo. Her design business took off. She posted about her blessings and gratitude and living her best life. I wasn't part of that life. I was a duty, an obligation, someone to send a Christmas card to and maybe call on Mother's Day if they remembered. Last Thanksgiving, I received an e-card, a photo of Jacob's family, all 5 of them dressed in coordinated outfits, smiling in front of their decorated fireplace. The caption read, "Greetings from the Goldstein family. Grateful for all our blessings." I sat in my apartment eating a leftover hamburger I'd brought home from the restaurant where I worked. I stared at those beautiful children, my grandchildren, 3 of whom I'd never met in person. They looked so happy, so perfect, so completely unaware that their grandmother was eating cold fast food in a room the size of their playroom. 3 months ago, I fell. The bathroom floor was wet, my own fault. I'd dripped water getting out of the shower, and my bad knees gave out. I hit the floor hard, felt something crack in my hip, and couldn't get up. I called for help, but the walls are thick enough that it took 3 hours before Mrs. Martinez heard me and called 911. The ambulance came, the hospital admitted me, fractured hip. The social worker found Jacob's number in my phone and called him. He flew in 2 days later. I was still in the hospital, hooked up to IVS, waiting for surgery the hospital had agreed to do whether I could pay or not, Jacob stood by my bed looking uncomfortable. He'd gained weight, was wearing an expensive suit even though he'd supposedly rushed here directly from the airport. He couldn't quite meet my eyes. "Mum, why didn't you tell me things were this bad?" he asked. I looked at him, this man I'd sacrificed everything for, who'd somehow become a stranger. "When would I have told you, Jacob? During our monthly phone calls that you're always too busy for? The holidays you haven't visited me for in 5 years?" He flushed. "That's not fair." We've invited you to visit us. With what money? Do you have any idea what I live on? My social security is $1,100 a month. My rent is $800. That leaves $300 for food, utilities, medicine. I can't afford a bus ticket to Connecticut, let alone a plane ticket. I didn't know it was that bad, he said quietly. You didn't ask, I said. Rachel arrived the next day with supermarket flowers and tears. She sat by my bed and sobbed, saying she was sorry. She should have stayed in better touch, she didn't realize. They both stayed for 3 days. They visited every afternoon, brought me magazines I couldn't focus on reading, talked about their lives. Jacob told me about his kids' accomplishments. Rachel showed me photos of her condo renovation. Neither of them talked about money. Neither of them offered concrete help. When I was discharged, they helped me back to my apartment. I watched their faces as they saw how I lived. The single room with a bed, a mini fridge, and a hot plate. The communal bathroom down the hall, the peeling paint, and the window that wouldn't close all the way. Mum will find you a better place, Jacob said. But his voice was vague, making promises his actions wouldn't keep. They left the next morning, back to their lives. I haven't heard from either of them since, except for a few perfunctory text messages asking how I'm feeling. Now I spend my Tuesdays at a support group at the community centre. It's called Forgotten Elders, not exactly subtle but accurate. There are 12 of us, all with similar stories. Parents who gave everything to their children and ended up with nothing. We sit in a circle in a room that smells like coffee and old carpet, and we tell our stories. Helen runs the group. She's 82, sharp as a tack, and doesn't pull punches. After I told my story for the first time, she looked at me with something between pity and frustration. You all made the same mistake, she said, looking around the circle. You gave them the whole fish instead of teaching them how to fish. You made your sacrifices so easy for them that they learned to take everything for granted. They never had to struggle, never had to appreciate what they had, because it all came from Mommy and Daddy's endless well of resources. Except the well wasn't endless, was it? I wanted to argue with her, but I couldn't. She was right. I think about the choices I made. Selling my house for Jacob's education, taking out loans for Rachel's school, giving them money for their weddings and their down payments. In each moment, the choice seemed so clear. I was their mother. They needed help. How could I refuse? But here's what I didn't understand then. There's a difference between helping your children and crippling them with generosity. There's a difference between love and self-destruction. I taught my children that they could have whatever they wanted without working for it themselves. I taught them that my resources were infinite, that I would always catch them when they fell, that they never needed to worry about supporting themselves because I would always be there. And they learned the lesson perfectly. They learned to take, they never learned to give back. I should have let Jacob take out student loans. He would have graduated with debt, yes, but he would have valued his education more. He would have understood the weight of that investment. Instead, I handed him $80,000 and asked nothing in return, not even gratitude, apparently. I should have told Rachel to find scholarships, to work part-time, to find a way. Instead, I mortgaged my future for hers, and she never knew the cost because I never told her. I should have kept enough money to ensure my own security. I should have remembered that children grow up and move on, but I would still need to survive. I should have understood that love without boundaries isn't love. It's martyrdom. But understanding this now doesn't change anything. I'm 74 years old, living in a single-room apartment, working part-time at a job that makes my knees scream, unable to afford the surgery that would ease the pain. My children live comfortable lives in nice houses with their families, posting about their blessings on social media, occasionally remembering to send me a card. The photographs on my wall mock me now. Jacob's missing tooth grin, Rachel covered in paint. David and me on our wedding day, so full of hope. The bakery with its blue awning. All of it led to this: a cramped room, a body that hurts constantly, children who love me in the abstract but can't be bothered to help in the concrete. Last week I took down the photographs. I couldn't stand looking at them anymore, couldn't stand the reminder of everything I'd lost in the process of giving everything away. But then the walls looked so bare, so empty, that I put them back up. They hurt to look at, but the emptiness hurt more. If you're reading this, if you're a parent facing similar choices, let me tell you what I've learned too late. Your children don't need you to give them everything. They need you to teach them how to build their own lives. They need to struggle a little, to work for their dreams, to understand that resources are limited and choices have consequences. They need you to love them enough to say no sometimes. They need you to model self-respect and self-preservation, not endless self-sacrifice. And you need to remember that you matter too. Your future matters. Your security matters. Your happiness and comfort in your old age matter just as much as your children's college education or dream wedding or house down payment. I forgot that. I treated myself as a resource to be mined until nothing was left, and my children, because I never taught them otherwise, learned to do the same. Tonight I'll heat up a can of soup on my hot plate. I'll take my pain medication, the generic kind because I can't afford name brand. I'll look at those faded photographs and feel the familiar mix of love and regret and anger that never quite goes away. Are my children bad people? Number. They're just people who learned the wrong lessons from a mother who loved them too much and herself too little. They're people who were never taught that love should flow both ways, that family means taking care of each other, not just taking from each other. Sometimes late at night, when the pain is bad and sleep won't come, I let myself imagine a different life. In that life, I kept the bakery. I kept my savings. I helped my children reasonably, but not excessively. I taught them to be self-sufficient. I respected myself enough to ensure my own security. In that life, maybe I'd be living in a real apartment with a bedroom and a kitchen. Maybe I'd have had the knee surgery years ago. Maybe my children would visit not out of obligation, but because they genuinely enjoyed my company. Maybe they'd respect me for teaching them strength instead of pitying me for my weakness. But that's not my life. My life is this room, these aches, this loneliness, and the knowledge that I created it all myself through love that knew no limits and demanded nothing in return. The cruelest thing? I still loved them. After everything, I still loved Jacob and Rachel with the same fierce, protective love I felt the day they were born. I would still help them if they asked, even though I have nothing left to give. That's the nature of a mother's love. It doesn't know when to stop, doesn't know when enough is enough, but maybe that's not love at all. Maybe it's something else, fear or need or ego. Maybe real love would have been tougher, wiser, more balanced. Maybe real love would have said, I love you enough to let you struggle. I love you enough to keep enough for myself. I love you enough to teach you that you're capable of building your own life. I'll never know now. I made my choices and I live with them. Every painful step, every lonely evening, every moment of wondering how I'll pay next month's rent. These are the consequences of choices I made with the best intentions and the worst judgment. So here I sit in a single room where I can hear my neighbours' arguments through thin walls, looking at faded photographs of a life that feels like it belonged to someone else. Ruth's bakery is gone. David is gone. The children I raised are grown and distant, and I'm still here, barely, held together by arthritis medicine and stubbornness, and the fading hope that maybe, somehow, things might still change. But I know they won't. This is my life now. This is what unconditional love brought me, and on the long, lonely nights, I have to decide whether it was worth it. Most nights I tell myself yes, because admitting the alternative, that I wasted my life on people who took everything and gave nothing back, is too devastating to bear. But some nights, in the darkest hours before dawn, I admit the truth to myself. I gave my children everything, and they left me with nothing. And the person I should blame most isn't them, it's me.